All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are now going to talk about Julio Jones announcing his retirement after 13 seasons in the NFL. And I just realized my segment title says "Comeback After 13 Seasons." I don't know why it says that, but I can only blame myself. So yeah, so Julio Jones, long-time Atlanta Falcon, after 13 seasons, spent some time, bounced around a little bit. Spent some time with the Titans. Then he went to the Buccaneers, and then the Eagles actually signed him at one point. That was back in 2023. Um, but yeah, he announced it. This was on Friday. We obviously were done with our show by then, and it was on 404 Day, which was a nod to Atlanta, and retires at 36. Like I said, spent 13 seasons in the NFL from 2011 to 2023. His last game played was with the Eagles. He was drafted sixth overall to the Atlanta Falcons back in the 2011 draft. And his career stats: he has 914 receptions, 13,000 receiving yards, 16th all time in NFL history, 66 touchdowns, was to the Pro Bowl 7 times, 2 All-Pro selections. With the Falcons, had 848 receptions, 12,896 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, second in franchise history behind Roddy White, who has 63. 7 1,000-yard seasons from 2012 to 2019, and has 2 receiving titles. 2015 season, he had 136 catches, which was second all time. 1,871 receiving yards, third all time for a single season. Playoff stats: 77 catches, 992 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns in 11 games. He's a member of the NFL's 2010s All-Decade team. And with Matt Ryan, they had 65 touchdowns together. So actually, there was one touchdown with the Falcons that he had that was not with Matt Ryan. Might have been with Matt Schaub, I don't remember. Because Matt Ryan always played. It was very rare that Matt Ryan ever missed a game. But yeah, it's another wide receiver or another guy that we've grown up watching that has called it quits, and I would say, watching football, he was one of the best receivers of our lifetime. If you remember the 2010s, fondly, Julio Jones was definitely up there. Obviously, you have Calvin Johnson. Antonio Brown for me, I'd put at number one. Before things kind of took a weird direction with him. We'll put it like that. But Julio Jones was definitely up there. Has had some big games over the years. Had an impressive career. You really wanted to see him get a ring. Went to the Bucks with Brady his final year. Was hoping to get a ring, and then the Eagles too. Unfortunately, if he was on the 2024 Eagles, he would have won a ring, but it was a year early on that. But the Falcons, unfortunately, their best chance was that 2016 season. You had that massive lead, and he played very well in the Super Bowl. He had a couple of great catches in that game. And, the one that, he had that toe tapper on the sideline, you thought that was going to be the dagger there into the Patriots, and you thought the Falcons were going to win that, but it didn't happen. They let the Patriots back in that game, and they unfortunately lost, and they never got back there again. And Julio obviously, dealt with injuries towards the end of his career as well. And again, once he left the Falcons, one and done in the playoffs, in the years that he made it with the Bucks and then with the Eagles, of course. And the Titans, I think, did they make the playoffs in 2021? Yeah, they did. They did. They were the number one seed that year. So yeah, they were one and done in all 3 years. that Julio, played for a different team. But yeah, he was a player that could take over a game. There was that one game back in 2016. Matt Ryan had 500 yards in the game, and Julio Jones had 300 yards in the game. And like I said, he took over that. He was a guy that was taking over that Super Bowl, and like I said, they unfortunately collapsed. But he really was one of the great receivers of this generation, and he's going to get into Canton. He is. You wish he would have had a Super Bowl ring to his resume, but it is what it is. But he was a great player, and congratulations to him on his retirement. And let's see what he does his post NFL career. But like I said, him, Megatron, and AB, those are probably the three best receivers of the generation of the 2010s. Who else am I missing? I'm trying to go through everybody. I mean, yeah, that has to be the top three, right? I mean, you could order it however you want. Like I said, I put Antonio Brown ahead of him and Megatron. That might be a hot take there, but I think it's because more so I also watched more Steelers games than I did Lions games, because my dad's a Steelers fan, and I was more invested in the Steelers than I was with the Lions, because unfortunately for Megatron, he was not on very good teams. Obviously the 2014 season they made the playoffs and they should have advanced. But there was a ticky-tacky call in that game that kind of changed the momentum against the Cowboys. But yeah, it was a lot of rough years in Detroit for Megatron. But obviously, there's so many great plays that he had. But yeah, it's just again, I say this all the time, but just growing up and watching these guys, and you just think they're gonna play forever, and they all have expiration dates, and it's gonna happen to all the guys that we're watching right now. So you got to enjoy these players while we have them, and appreciate every moment that they have, because it's gonna end at some point. It is, and it's sad when it does. So again, I sound like a broken record with that, but yeah. So like I said, congratulations to Julio in his retirement. Best wishes in his post NFL career. But let me know what you guys think about Julio Jones retiring. What were your favorite moments from his career? Let me know in the comments. So we will continue our football discussion. Again, we opened up with basketball, we had baseball in the middle, and now we have football at the end. We will continue our season overviews with the Denver Broncos. We will talk about the Denver Broncos. This is the second to last season overview that we will do. Tomorrow we will talk about the team that represented the AFC in the Super Bowl and lost in the Super Bowl, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs. That will be the final season overview that we cover. And then I got to figure out, hey, what are we going to do for a final segment? Because this has kind of been the staple, for a few weeks now, or more than that. And yeah, we're gonna have to figure it out after tomorrow. But yes, so when we come back from our next break, we will talk about the Broncos, one of the surprise teams in the NFL. Go over their season. What transpired. What they've done in the offseason, what they could potentially do in the draft, all of that. And then, yeah, that will pretty much wrap up the show for today. And, yeah, and like I said, the Chiefs will be the team that we cover tomorrow, which is, I think, kind of fitting, I guess, just because, they've been in the Super Bowl so many times in recent years. And, yeah, I know some people are, sick of them, So that's I did it for you guys. That's why they were last. We ended up doing them last. No, that's has nothing to do with it. But yeah, so we'll talk about the Broncos when we come back from our final break of the show. So for one final time today, make sure to stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.